Welcome to Who Knew, a 2020 NASA review, the first of several free public talks in the NEK this year. My name is Cynthia Shelton, and I am a Solar System Ambassador Volunteer for NASA. The SSA program began in 1997 with a handful of science educators. There are now over 1,000 SSAs all over the U.S. with the same mission to bring space exploration and innovation news to the public. We are given special access to training and materials that we are then able to present to you. 2 disclaimers. 1, I am not a scientist or an engineer. I'm a writer and a presenter with a passion for the topic and the ability to curate cross-sections of the information buffet you are all about to see. And 2, if any opinions accidentally sneak into my talk, please know they are mine alone and not NASA's. I applied to be a Solar System Ambassador because I love learning about all things science and space, and sharing that knowledge with you is a great pleasure and a privilege. I want to start by showing you the range of the NASA topics we could learn about together. As we go along, if you want to find out more about a particular subject, please make a note of it and then write to me at ssa.cynthiashelton@gmail.com. 2020 is a thrilling year for space exploration. There's tons of stuff going on, and NASA emphasizes that all of us are needed for the goal to discover and expand knowledge for the benefit of humanity. That's why this kid, looking very comfortable in the captain's chair at a Star Trek convention, decided to become a Solar System Ambassador. I know I won't be an astronaut or a starship captain, but I can still contribute to the common goal of space exploration. If you love this adventure too, let's talk about how you can also participate. So I'm a Trekkie, it's true, but there is science fiction and there's science fact. And while science fiction has inspired real inventions, it's important to distinguish between the science that has been achieved and what is still only in our imaginations. A great place to go for science fact is the NASA website at nasa.gov. NASA, which you probably know stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, is an independent agency of the United States federal government responsible for the civilian space program, as well as aeronautics and aerospace research. They celebrated their 60th anniversary in 2018, and because they are funded by we the people, they go above and beyond to share what NASA does with the public right here on the website. I want to invite you to check out NASA's history for yourself. They have a series of terrific short video clips that show how we got to this point. I've been binge-watching NASA TV when they show everything from historic reports from the 1950s to live updates on launches and discoveries. Danger, Will Robinson, it's addicting. My personal favorite subjects are about getting to and colonizing Mars, thus becoming a multi-planet species, the International Space Station, celebrating 20 years of continual human presence in space in November, growing food in microgravity, and building habitats on other planets made of locally sourced materials. But I will deep dive into any tangent you have an interest in just to stoke your intellectual curiosity. I will add to my list of interests the many careers beyond astronauts, rocket scientists, and mission control that support NASA's achievements. Any job that exists on Earth theoretically has a place in the pioneering enterprise of learning to live in a completely foreign environment. NASA needs all of us to be part of the exploration. We learn more about preserving life on Earth when we can step back and look at our own little home planet from a distance. Yep, that's Earth, the pale blue dot, part of the first ever portrait of the solar system, taken by Voyager 1 on February 14, 1990. Not much to look at from over 4 billion miles away. Earth happens to be sitting right in the center of one of the sun's scattered light rays. Humans in space. This covers a lot, from how we get into space, daily activities like eating, how our bodies behave in microgravity, what it does to our brains, the astronauts as individuals, and how you become an astronaut. There could be a focus on women astronauts, Christina Cook just returned from her 11-month mission on the ISS. And then there's the twins. There's a whole new research arm called Omics that took advantage of the astronauts Scott Kelly, who spent a year in space, while his twin brother Mark stayed home. Note that Scott got a little taller from getting stretched in space. He's the one on the right. Omics takes a close-up look at the cellular changes that happen to humans in space. We could look at the International Space Station up close and personal to see what research is being done there, and by whom, how the ISS was built, and why it will be decommissioned in 2024. Commercial Crew is about the private companies such as SpaceX and Boeing transporting crew and cargo from the Earth to space. Low Earth orbit economy is about business in space right over our heads. That could include tourism, mining, satellite systems, big floating greenhouses full of veggies, anything people can dream up. Moon to Mars. The Artemis Project. "We are going" is the tagline everyone is repeating right now at NASA. That means we are going back to the moon to stay this time, with the first woman and the next man, or perhaps 2 women astronauts will take that mission. By establishing a sustained presence on the moon, it will be a jumping-off point to explore more of the universe. The Lunar Gateway is a planned orbiting platform, like a train station in space, that will allow larger ships too big to launch to be built in microgravity. Ultimately, the idea is to reach Mars and set up habitats while we perfect our survival techniques in new environments. Here are some of the Mars challenges. Earth's moon, commercial lunar payload services, Lunar Gateway, preparing people to go. Getting there. SLS stands for Space Launch System. That's the biggest rocket yet attempted. Orion is the spacecraft that will be launched by SLS. We could talk about Earth science. Much of what NASA does is collect data on the Earth to observe patterns and changes, which help with weather and climate predictions. Better data helps us make better choices and better planning. If you are a weather or climate watcher, this might be something for you. Here are just a few of the topics about Earth science we could look into. Air, climate, hazards, water, ocean and ice, land, benefits on Earth, Earth expeditions, addressing global challenges, hurricanes, Earth research findings, and global precipitation. Missions. Obviously, there are some overlaps here, but if you want to keep up to date on what is happening, when, and why, this is your topic. Any one of these missions is a discussion in itself. The ISS, the Hubble Space Telescope, Curiosity Mars Rover, InSight Mars Lander, Parker Solar Probe, Artemis Program, Commercial Crew, Juno Mission at Jupiter, OSIRIS-REx Asteroid Mission, James Webb Space Telescope, New Horizons, Pluto and Beyond. And I'd like to point out that this picture of the Curiosity Mars Rover was taken by the Mars Rover. It's a selfie. It's the first selfie on Mars. I would be happy to find out more about any of these missions. Some of the research that just was launched in Northrop Grumman's Cygnus supply ship to the ISS was for tissue and cell culturing in space. There's an electron microscope the size of a toaster that can see tiny, tiny nanostructures. There's a bone density and loss experiment, and they're going to deliberately set fire to things to see what happens to flames in microgravity. And of course, there's always missions past. That's always fun. Robots and other space tech. It's popular right now to say that Mars is the only planet with nothing but robot residents. Robots are getting more sophisticated and have to operate autonomously, solving problems by themselves once they are beyond our physical reach. They are designed to do specific things, such as report on the location of space debris. That's what this little bot that looks like a milk crate is doing. Space junk is a problem. This is the orbital debris that surrounds the Earth. It's an illustration to show how much stuff is accumulating out in space. They estimate more than 500,000 pieces of debris or space junk is out there, tracked by that little milk crate, as they orbit the Earth. You might not think that a little chip of paint or a loose bolt could do much damage, but consider they travel at speeds up to 17,500 miles per hour, which is plenty fast enough to damage a satellite or a spacecraft. It's said among science fiction nerds that the space junk around a planet would be an obvious indicator to any intelligent life out in the universe that there was less than intelligent life on that planet, and they should probably steer clear. Planet Protection is an organization of people who are trying to make sure we don't mess up other planets when we go there. And here's an interesting problem. How do you tell time in space? And knowing time is essential for navigation. But time is compared to what? You've probably heard that being away from the gravitational pull of a large mass like a planet makes time move slower. This is a problem if you're trying to get from planet A to planet B. So they are working on a deep space atomic clock, which is kind of like GPS in space. And they're planning to use 3D printer robots to build habitats on the Moon and Mars. So if tech fascinates you, this is your topic. Launches and landings. How can you not love this? Sometimes the launches and landings happen at 3 a.m., but when they are planned for a more convenient time, we could have a launch event and watch it together on the big screen and talk about it afterwards. I do cry still at launches, though. Happy tears. Happy. Here are some of the events coming up this year. Some of them have already happened by the time you see this. Solar systems and beyond. Here's where we can explore individual planets in detail. Astronomy, the origin of stars, theories of what is out there, Dark Matter Day, which happens to be Halloween, or Black Hole Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving. I found out that there are groupies for particular planets. Some people just love Jupiter, or some people really, really dig Venus. If you are starstruck by a planet or a small moon, we could plan a focus on that one with some creative project to go with it. There are now so many orbiters and satellites out there collecting information, NASA refers to it as a fleet. Until I saw this poster, I had no idea how many detective bots we had out there. And that's just NASA. Other countries have their own space programs that collect information, with the top 6 being the US, the Soviet Union, India, China, the European Union, and Japan. It's getting crowded out there. NASA invites you to be a citizen scientist. There are multiple opportunities for students of all ages and citizen scientists to contribute weather data, make observations about the soil, precipitation, or air quality. There are contests such as the one for kids who want to name the new rover. The winner was Perseverance, and the student who wrote the winning essay will get to go see the launch. NASA really emphasizes inclusive participation and offers many avenues for the public to become engaged in some way. If you want to get involved, here's the link: nasa.gov/stem/artemis.html. Likewise, there are STEM activities for students of all ages, and the NASA website has a kids club with fun things to get younger children interested in all things space. Spin-offs. Check this out. NEMO stands for NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operations. It's very important to have a great acronym. There's an underwater habitat called Aquarius in Florida on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. Astronauts, or rather aquanauts, go live underwater for 3 weeks at a time as an analog or parallel experience to living in space. They go on spacewalks underwater and practice living in small spaces, using tools and dealing with emergencies. If anyone is interested in knowing more about this amazing training situation, I'm for it. This picture illustrates the PVT test used by businesses to maintain safe operating practices. And here's a few of the very long list of tech developed for space that became useful here on Earth. Anybody have a memory foam bed? NASA is not without a sense of humor. They commissioned a bunch of travel posters to advertise space life. I like this one because she brought her dog and he seems to be doing fine. Astronaut Christina Cook said that her reunion with her dog after a year away was very emotional. I would not want to go without my dog, so I tried him out on this idea. Note the cat's paw nebula. This is a selfie app, by the way. You can put yourself in this spacesuit. Also to be found on nasa.gov. And if you really want to be in an actual spacesuit, you could go to space camp, or NASA is hiring astronauts all through March. Here are the requirements for the latest Artemis generation candidates. And if you, like me, are not that kind of right stuff, there is more to explore about careers in the space industry. If you have any ambitions to get involved with space exploration as a job, please let me know and let's look into it together. So, time to wrap up? There are other things I didn't mention but could be just as interesting. Did you know Snoopy and NASA have a long history together? Did you know there's a 747 jet with a telescope mounted in the side that takes sightings as it flies? Do you know what an astrobiologist does? Or a 21-centimeter cosmologist? Thank you for watching, and write to me at ssacinthiashelton@gmail.com. Let's schedule a presentation or event for your group in 2020.